Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mitch Taco Bell. I am here for episode 7 with Master Sergeant Leroy Petry. And I got to tell you that this is going to be a great show. Leroy, I've known for just a few years through a great project we used to participate in called Skyball, which was a blast. We're going to talk to Leroy about what he's doing now, a little bit about his time in the Army, and just kind of jaw jack as two military guys like to do. So, with no further ado, I'd like to bring on my good friend, Leroy. Leroy, how you doing, sir?
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Man, you look sharp. I like that. You looking good.
Yeah, I try to clean up a little bit.
I know, and it's early for you too. So I really apologize and want to thank you for coming on to my show. I was thinking about you the other day because I saw the message come up about somebody stole your license plate from SeaTac Airport. Did you guys ever catch this guy?
No, I got calls from FBI friends. The law enforcement logged it in as stolen, so it goes on a national database. So it's almost like a stolen car. If they find it, they'll hopefully catch the guy. And when I posted it back then, I said it's probably some gamer, some PX Ranger that was going to show it to everybody, and now he realizes he could only hide it in his garage and not show it to anyone.
Right, man. He's holding on to kryptonite. Holy crap! That I've always seen. Mike Thornton's had the Congressional Medal plate. And then Barney Barnum has one. I'm sure there's not too many.
The biggest thing of that all is it's been a pain in the butt to get another one.
Yeah.
They have to custom make them every time. And so it takes about a month. And the process that's been the hardest part, is dealing with people that don't really understand it. And then they sent me my registration and a temporary tag
right
a month ago or so, and I called them up as soon as I got it, and I said, "Thanks, that's awesome. Thanks for the temporary, but I'm looking at this registration for my new plates that you're going to send me, and it's the same exact number." I said, "I put them in as stolen. They're logged nationally." I said, "I can't put the same plate. I'll get pulled over all the time." I caught the guy. In fact, yesterday. Give me a second. They still messed it up and sent me the same number.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like, man.
So can you get the FBI to take that out of the database as stolen? And
no, I'm gonna leave it, but they need to send me a different number. So yeah. I'll be waiting another month for plates.
God, that's kind of funny, actually. What a pain in the butt.
It's only happened one other time. Somebody attempted to steal it off my old vehicle. I had a Jeep, and they went. It was on base of all places.
What? Somebody had the nerve to do that on base?
I was at Burger King, and I came back outside, and my plate was bent all the way up, like somebody tried to pry it off. And I was like, man.
Oh my God. Tell you what, man, there's some nerve.
But I did get a lot of good ideas. People were telling me to wire it to the battery and give them a nice jolt. Or I think what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to have a friend of mine. He's going to weld something and put it on there so it's nearly impossible to get off.
How about a flashbang underneath?
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know where I got that flashbang. It just kind of dropped out of somebody's ruck when I was visiting. Well, take me back. You grew up in New Mexico, right?
Santa Fe, yes.
Santa Fe. So who was your inspiration to join the Army?
Oh, boy. I don't think there was one individual. As far as I wanted to join since I was a young kid, probably about 7 or 8.
Right.
I started really understanding and asking the questions because my mom's cousin was deployed to Desert Shield Storm.
91.
And I started saying, well, why is he over there risking his life for all those people that we don't even know?
Right.
And then it started to make sense of serving this country and I wanted to do that. Even if it was only 4 years, I said, I want to take my turn to give back to so many that I grew up in a free country and enjoyed everything we have in our country because others did it. I said, I want to take my turn on the watch.
Right.
And so my cousin, though, was in the Rangers. I didn't know about the Rangers, but he was telling me about them. And I was like, man, if I'm going to join, I'm going to join the best. And
Right.
it was pre 9/11. So it really, really sunk into my mind that, well, we're not at war right now, but if we do have to go to war, I want to go with the ones that are training the hardest and ready for it.
Was it a 75th Bat? Were those the guys in Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down?
That was our third Ranger Battalion.
That was third. Okay. Yeah. In terms of movies, I just watched The Outpost the other night. But in terms of movies, the Black Hawk Down to me is one of the most vivid, realistic movies in terms of the bonds, the brotherhood of being in the military and being in war. And did you find that, as you saw that movie, did that feel the same? I mean, you lived it, but
I love that movie. I've watched it so many times throughout the years. But we were just talking about this the other day. A friend of mine he said, "Oh yeah, it came out in 2001 and it was delayed." And I said, "Well, the nice part for us was they reserved a whole movie theater and we got to watch it early as our unit."
oh, no
And
kidding.
it was it was good because shortly thereafter we were finding out that, hey, you guys are going to be deploying a whole lot. And it actually, my first sergeant at the time I got injured back in 2008 was he was a private during Mogadishu. He was in Mogadishu with the 3rd Ranger Battalion.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been fortunate. I've had great leaders that have had great experiences and share their knowledge. And so it's been learning experience my whole life.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you, I always thought that they did a great job on that movie. Not only the technical stuff, but I mean, that was one of the most well-documented battles in terms of having aircraft overhead and the comms and everything recorded. So they were able to kind of get it all together. Then that goes forward into some of the stuff like you were doing in Afghanistan. Talk about that day that when you went out for that HVT. And I did get a question about that. Did you guys ever catch him?
We didn't catch him. He had fled the scene before we got there. And I think it was probably about 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
One of my buddies who was actually attached to us, he was an FBI agent in Afghanistan, and he called me up and he was telling me about they ended up catching him. I forget where, Saudi Arabia or something.
Really?
6 or 7 years later, and they extradited him, and they were talking about me possibly being a victim witness. And I said, I'm all for it. And then it turned out that they said, no, we're not going to need it because he squealed like a canary, and we've got all kinds of great stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
But
well, go back to that mission. I know one of the things that came out was you guys always operated at night. I mean, you all own the night with the MVGs, and this time you're going in daylight. Did you have flashbacks of Black Hawk Down?
Actually, one of my first sergeants probably said it the best. He said, normally you don't see each other's faces when you're flying out because you don't really see emotions in their faces because they're just green under NVGs.
Right.
And he said this time was different because you could actually see everybody and you could see the look on their faces that everyone kind of had that little bit of concern that history has proven that when you fight on a more even battlefield during daylight, too, we're coming in on Chinooks. They're going to hear us coming in from miles away. And
right.
I kind of had that sixth sense feeling where I knew we were probably going to take casualties, and I was mentally trying to prepare for it. I didn't think I would be one of them myself.
Yeah. Well, you're how old were you at that time?
Oh boy, I think I was 29.
29. And at that time, how many deployments had you had under your belt?
That was my 7th deployment.
7th. Jeez. So out of all the firefights, I mean, how many, 7
Yeah,
times you've gone deployed. Your household 6 is a goddess.
that's the hardest part is that it's more sacrifice on the family. They
Yeah.
worry about us. They don't know if we were out on missions every day, and sometimes we'd just be hanging out at the fob waiting for missions, and they don't know that. They just worry about us coming home, if we're going to come home in one piece, if we're going to come home at all.
Right.
But the 7th deployments, I actually went back for one more after I had recovered. But
Yeah,
that
that's
I
amazing.
mean, it sounds like a lot, and people always like, oh my gosh. But the truth is a couple of years ago, I was in Afghanistan visiting the troops with some wounded veterans, and I ran into a friend of mine that I served with. And I was like, man, I haven't seen you in a few years. What's new? Are you married? You got kids, girlfriend? And he looked at me and he goes, Leroy, I'm on trip number 23. If they want me back here next year, I'll be on trip 24. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Holy crap.
And those were my peers.
Yeah.
And I said, had I stayed in, I probably would have been right there with them. And yeah, so I look at mine as like, man, 7, that's only a quarter of what some of these people are doing,
Yeah.
the commitment they've given.
Yeah. But I mean, the firefights and everything that you had to go through, even all through all 7. Um, when you went into this particular mission to get that HVT, you guys landed in the 47s. How many guys are we talking about? 100?
No,
Do you
we
have
were probably
maybe
about 50, 60,
50 or 60 guys?
probably about 50, because we were hitting multiple targets at the same time. So when we hit the ground, immediately coming off our helicopter, we were taking contact,
Right.
and the politically correct term, neutralized the threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some guys took off to a different compound, and it's a rural area. I mean, a lot of open fields and a couple compounds here and there. So some went that way, some went that way, hitting multiple targets because we didn't know if that main target had fled to another building adjacent. But we wanted to leave no stone unturned while we were in
Sure.
the.
Well, did you guys have backup air support, UAV, Predator? I mean, I'm hoping that I'm
We,
hoping they didn't just throw you in jump in the valley and go, good
we
luck.
did we did have all the support. I mean, that's the one thing that I loved about being with the Rangers is special operations. You get some of the best support there is, and
Right.
um, I think there was a UAV footage of it for a small period. It was on our drive, and then uh, disappeared when the recommendation went up.
Oh man. So you go in, you get down, you're in that one compound, and I've heard the stories. I've never really sat and talked about it though. Go ahead. I've heard you talk about it, so you
When,
can talk about it.
when we're in this open
Don't
field,
mind.
after we took out that guy that was shooting at us, we're clearing the body, the platoon leader and I,
Yeah.
and then we hear over the radio one of our younger squad leaders had gone into the wrong building. And so I told my platoon leader, I looked at him and I said, hey, I'm going to go with them. I'm going to provide overwatch. And he said, go for it. And so I took off. But when I caught up with his squad, they had already entered the corner of this compound. And try to picture about a 20-foot walled compound.
Right.
And it's got a 2-story structure in the back corner and then a smaller building adjacent to it. And we ended up, because of the imagery we saw, we called it a chicken coop, just because of its size comparison. I always get the question, "Oh, is there really chickens in there?" And I was like, "No." But
Just what it looked like.
yeah, as they entered this corner of this compound, I don't know if they breached the wall, but it was already rubble.
Right.
But they moved in this compound and went kind of across the courtyard toward the 2-story building. And I was the last guy in, so they were committed. I followed them. As they started clearing this 2-story building, I'm staying in the doorway. And I said, give me another guy. We need to clear this courtyard and the chicken coop. And I'm pulling security, and I didn't even turned to look, but I felt a bump on my shoulder, and I knew I had somebody with me. So
Mm-hmm.
we started to move. And as we started to move, we were crossing over to the chicken coop, and I saw it out of my peripheral vision, two guys from our left, probably about 15 feet away, just opened up with AK-47 spraying. And that was one of the questions that they asked me. They're like, how'd you know it was two guys? And I said, because I saw them.
15 feet away is not hard to PIA those guys.
Yeah, but then the next thing I knew was I felt a impact in my left thigh. It felt like somebody had taken a sledgehammer and just smashed me in the thigh.
Yeah.
And I knew I was shot. I'd never been shot before that. And it's kind of one of those videos like you watch the hunting show where the deer bucks when it gets hit.
Yeah.
But the adrenaline and everything keeps it running. And that's kind of where I was like, oh man, get out of here before you catch some more of those bullets.
Right.
And so then the guy behind me, PFC Robinson, he got shot just below his left shoulder. And luckily, we found out later, he didn't know at the time, but it was about 1/8 of an inch from going over his side plate, and it would have hit his heart, his lungs, probably would have killed him right in that spot.
And I used to think those things were a pain in the butt, the extra plates. But
that's where all your vital organs are.
Yeah.
And so he followed me. He was running behind me, and we got pinned down behind that chicken coop.
Right.
And I immediately told them, hey, watch that corner. My biggest fear was they were going to come around the sides and finish us off while we're injured. I prepped a thermal barrel grenade, and I threw it over the building. It went off, kind of bought us a lull in fire. And that's when another ranger came running over, Sergeant Higgins, and I was like, hey, watch Robinson, watch that corner. I'm on the radio at this point trying to give my command, and what's going on? So we got a couple injured. We're still in heavy small arms contact. I'm watching my side of the building and checking on them, and kind of went down to a squatted position because legs started to hurt.
Yeah.
And as I'm checking my corner again, I hear a blast. And I turn around to check on those two guys next to me, and we're not more than, this building's probably about 6-7 feet wide.
Yeah.
And I said, they look at me and they're like, what the heck was that? And I said, they're throwing grenades, keep your heads down, and keep watching that corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm back on the radio doing my checks, kind of getting into almost a seated position and checking on my guys. And one of my checks that I turned around to check on them, I noticed there was a pineapple grenade sitting right behind them.
Like a World War II pineapple grenade.
Yeah.
Like one of ours.
Like one the CIA must have given when they were helping them fight the Russians.
Hey, here's some stock from 1942. Enjoy. The primer may work 5 seconds, 10 seconds. We don't know.
Yeah, but that was the idea, though, that, and I mean, I saw it as a threat to them, and I just reached over and I grabbed it. And as I attempted to throw it, I leaned forward with all my weight. And as I opened my hand to release it, it exploded.
Yeah.
And completely took the hand off at the wrist. And I sat up and I grabbed it and I looked at it, and the radius and the ulna were poking up about half an inch.
Right.
It was oozing blood, and the skin was hanging around the edges, and it kind of shock went in a little bit.
Yeah.
And weird thoughts of, why isn't this thing spraying 3 feet in the air like in Hollywood movies?
Did the explosion kind of cauterize some stuff?
I think so. And then I think because it was such a fast amputation, it what happens is if I reached down and I grabbed my tourniquet and I threw it on and stopped the bleeding.
Right.
Had I hesitated for longer, I think because it was such a fast explosion that the nerves and everything reacted and tucked in.
Right.
And so had I waited, it probably would have came out and started spraying.
Yeah. Ooh.
With the heartbeat and everything. And so
right.
It did. I mean, I could smell the burns, and there was debris in there and stuff. But I got pepper shrapnel in my legs and arm. And I got lucky, though, because my head was down when I threw it.
Right.
And I remember at the hospital, I got one tiny little scar. There was a little cut on my nose. But I still have my eye protection. It's covered. It's covered in shrapnel and blood, and that saved my eyes. And
wow.
I always used to be the guy when Sergeant Major, hey, where's your eye probe? Where's your eye probe?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was probably not the best at it. As soon as we get off the helicopter, I'd take them off and stuck them in my cargo pocket.
Right.
Sometimes they'd fog up, and
Right.
I said I'd rather see than get shot and not see where it's coming from.
But now PPE, man, you're a big proponent of that.
Oh yeah, and I tell you those I'm grateful that I had them on that day. I also learned about a year later that listen to the Sergeant Major because I was out cutting weeds. And
Right.
the micro, whack, got something in the eye, and you don't realize you take a lot of chances with our lives until you lose one of your senses.
Right.
How important. I mean, it hurt I was like 3 days. I went to the hospital and I was like, God, I don't want to lose an eye too.
Yeah. Do you ever, I mean, I'm always curious, phantom pains, do you have those?
I don't. I'm very fortunate, and I have a lot of friends that lost legs as well, and I wear my prosthetic a good amount of the time, and so I think what it is that my eyes see the fingers moving.
Right.
It's when I'm lazy and I don't wear my prosthetic
Right.
for a period of time that I'll start getting phantom pains because it's the brain saying, "Where's the fingers? Why aren't they moving?" And it starts shooting those neural pathways, try to fire them, and it got me to thinking. I feel bad for my buddies that lost legs because they got no toes to wiggle.
Yeah. I guess. What are they going to make? Are they making? I mean, yours is incredible. I remember we were at Skyball, and you go, "Watch this," and you start spinning the hand around.
Give me like 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab.
Yeah. No worries. And why I've got here, I see Gene Pugh and Norma and Willie and Alan. Hey, you guys, if you guys have questions, we'll have questions coming up with Leroy.
Okay. So this is my prosthetic arm, and inside, I don't know, there's the angle. You see that little sensor in there?
Yeah.
There's one on each side because people always ask me how this works. And when I slide my arm into it, and then I put my hand down, it picks up the muscle impulses. And so when I flex my hand, mentally, what I'm thinking about is opening and closing my hand.
Right.
When I do that same thought process, that's what sends a signal to the hand to open and close.
Did they have to program that, or is that something that you were able to? I mean, they had to train it to do that, to think about that, and then the nerve.
I'll tell you, it was somebody a lot smarter than me that designed this.
Yeah.
But, this technology was out in 2007, I think.
Wow.
Because it used to be, you used to get the old fake looking hand that it was better than nothing. But these three fingers were false.
Right.
And then all it did was the pinch.
Right.
And it didn't really have a lot of control, so you could put a lot of pressure in. And it wasn't. It was good for what its time, but when I got this, I was like, "Holy cow, that's like a new hand."
Yeah, I bet. And you've got a little memorial on the side of that, if I remember right.
I did. This is actually they're working on a new arm for me right now. COVID's kind of slowed that down. The hospital just opened up in October again.
Right.
I used to have a plaque on here, and there was a lot of guys at the hospital. They were getting tattoos and flames or whatever designs they wanted on their prosthetic. And I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? And I said, I'll just go carbon fiber. And then I thought about it, and I came home and I went to a trophy shop nearby where I live. And I asked the gentleman, hey, can you make me this plaque? And he started asking about what is it for? And I told him I want to put it on my arm. And turns out that he was the owner, and he was an old Navy guy. And he said, there's no charge. And if you ever need any other ones, let me know.
Yeah.
Really,
love that, man. What a great guy.
And so for me, though, it was something that I wanted to see. Yeah. I didn't, it wasn't for others to really see, but it was for myself.
Yeah.
And when I take my prosthetic off at night, it was the last thing I would see before I put it on the charger.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning and I put my arm on, that was the first thing I'd see. So it would keep that in my mind of how fortunate I am to have another day in this world and make a difference.
Oh man, that is awesome. Great story. When you did your last deployment, did you have that? Did you have that?
I did. I actually I had this, and it was there's the conversation starter. Well, going back a little bit though, you asked if the programming and everything, and initially, it's advanced over the years, and they've upgraded some of the software and hardware. Now it's to the point where it's got Bluetooth,
Right.
and there is an app for that. And so I could put it on my phone and I could program it to do different things. It's pretty amazing. But the
Are you right or left-handed? I mean, is that your trigger finger?
it was
Yeah.
the nice part though is that I was the one that sometimes complained about it because we'd shoot offhand,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, why are we doing so much offhand shooting? And it made sense though too. If you got cover on this side, you want to not expose more of your body.
Right.
And that day I was running out of there with my gun in my left hand, and I'm very grateful that I knew how to shoot left-handed. And now it's the normal for me. I'm now left-handed, ambidextrous, so I think I'm using both sides of my brain, so it's even better.
And hey, you're up in SeaTac, or you're up there somewhere. So yeah, you've got to be ready. Huh?
I'll tell you the most disappointing thing though.
What's it?
Well, one of the most disappointing things. While I was in recovery, I was thinking to myself, oh man, I can't wait to get back home up near Seattle. Because I remember one of my visits to Seattle, I had passed by the store downtown and it was all left-handed. It was left-handed scissors, cups, everything.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm going there. And I got back home and went up there and it closed down. And I was like, man.
Well, you know what? I'll find the place. There is a left-handed, if I remember right, because I'm left-handed, but I shoot right-handed. So I was raised to shoot right-handed, shoot the pistol right-handed, but I'm a lefty. Catch the ball. So when we boxed, I always threw the guy off because I could switch up, and they weren't expecting that the left. So yeah, there's a place in Wichita, Kansas, left-handed Society of the World, and they sell what you're talking about. I'll see if that place is still around.
But you know as well as I do, you learn to adapt.
Yeah.
It's not easy in a right-handed world.
No.
There's some things that I'm like, man, these scissors never seem to cut right. and actually, when I did start I had an Instagram for a short period, and actually, like you were saying with the boxing, I get to pick your own name, so I put Southpaw Ranger.
I love it. Well, how did you find out that you were put up for the medal?
I was in rehab down in San Antonio, and my battalion was redeploying back home.
Mm-hmm.
And my first sergeant and my company commander, I guess in Germany, decided to send the battalion back to Fort Lewis, and they were going to come to San Antonio. And they flew their wives in as well. My family was already down there at that time, and I kind of struck me as odd. I was like, first sergeant and the company commander are both here,
right?
And they got to get accountability and everything in the rear. Why would they let the platoon sergeants and everybody else take that just to come visit me? They could have came and visited me later.
Right.
And they hung out for a few days. We went down to the hospital, or we went out on the river walk. And I think it was the last evening we were out back, and they're like, hey, let's have a cigar. And we're back there. And that's when they told me, they said, hey, we submitted you for the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
And it kind of went to the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I ended up re-enlisting, staying in, and I would hear guys come walking between buildings, it'd be like, "Hey, did you hear it passed JSOC or past CENTCOM or SOCOM?" And they'd always update me at different levels, and I'd be like, "No, I'm usually the last one to hear," but
Right.
I didn't care. I looked at it and I said, I have a job that I love that I'm doing. If it goes through, I'll use it as a platform to help others. If it doesn't go through, then I still got the job I love,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way I've always looked at it.
And so when you received the medal, that was Barack Obama in 2011.
It was,
Yeah.
and it was interesting. I got that call, and
Right.
he came on the phone, and the secretary, he said, "Next person you'll be connected with is the president of the United States," and
Right. That's an honor.
it kind of seemed scripted at first.
Uh-huh.
He had written it off the desk, and you don't know how. I mean, who gets calls from the president?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
My idea is, let me see how long I can keep him on the line.
You're thinking, who's trying to pull my leg here?
And
Yeah.
so I was telling him, "Hey, can you tell Michelle thanks for all the support she gives our military families and this and that?" And
Yeah.
he finally, all right, I got to get going. I was like, yeah, you do have a whole country to run.
Right.
But it was good.
I love the ceremony. I mean, I love watching the ceremony, and I see Barney in the background and all the other recipients that make it out. What was it like joining that? Knowing you, just if I just knew you, I could go out and buy a lottery ticket and probably win the Texas Lotto just to meet one living recipient of that medal. Now you're in that club, and there's maybe 35 or 40 of you that are able to get out and do stuff. I mean, you're part of a very special club now. How is that? Some of the opportunities.
It's humbling, and I'll tell you, I think about myself the same way that when I was a young soldier in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was two things I never thought I'd see. One was a Medal of Honor recipient. Two was a general, unless you were in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And if either of those two people came into the room you were in and even looked your way or gave you a few seconds of their time, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
And so I try to give that back to others, knowing what it meant to me. And there's times where I will run into World War II veterans that come up crying in tears.
Right.
When they say, "I never thought in my entire life I would meet a Medal of Honor recipient." And wow. The first thing I do is if I'm wearing it, I'll take it off and hand it to them.
Yeah.
And say, "You need to hold this. It belongs to all of us."
Right.
Those who have served are serving, and especially those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. And to me, it's a symbol of any of our service members can do amazing things.
Yeah.
They don't need to be recognized for it always. It seems like a lot of the times the people that get the credit are the ones that kick down the doors.
Right.
But the truth is, and I learned this not until I was almost a staff sergeant.
Uh-huh.
I did some staff time, and working in our S3 shop, I really started to realize the big picture of how many people go into our military, and that everyone's job is important, or else it wouldn't exist.
Right.
And I'll tell you, being deployed as an E4 with 4 kids,
yeah,
I wasn't so much afraid of dying. My person that I worried about a lot was the S1, the pack clerk taking care of my pay. And I thought, if he messes up my pay, my family's back home. And
yeah, and you're 8,000 miles away. There's not much you can do.
And that's why I tell folks, as I said, that every job is important, and it's because it's not like Burger King where you mess up somebody's hamburger and they come back through and, hey, you messed this up.
Right.
People's lives are dependent on every job.
Right. That's pretty awesome. Well, now as a recipient, and you talked about that, furthering some causes and doing some good things, you're doing great things. You want to talk about Warrior Call and
absolutely.
Please.
It's actually one of the big things that I'm focused on for the past about a year, several years, and suicide prevention
Right.
and mental health awareness. That right now is even more important because during this COVID, it's been hard on a lot of families, hard on a lot of people. And when you talk about that stress, because lives are dependent on it, and then you add other stress of, oh, where's my child care, or where's my wife lost her job, or my husband lost his job because of COVID. Well, I had gone to the past two uh, suicide prevention conventions put on by the Department of Defense and the VA. I think 2015 and last year. And I'll just leave it at that.
Really? Yeah.
But one of the things that I noticed, and the director of the foundation that's helping me do this all, is that we have all the resources to help everybody with just about anything.
Right.
And the ones that we're losing are the ones that aren't raising their hands, aren't walking into a facility, aren't calling into a 1-800 number. And we thought about it and we said, how do we find those people that are isolated? Because that isolation is a killer. And COVID obviously has isolated a lot of folks. But
we had more. We had. I mean, they always put that number out there, 22 a day.
It's kind of like right now, all these polls for election. It depends who's doing the poll, and it is actually higher. It's probably closer to 33 a day.
Wow.
And the hard part is that for me is that the highest percentage of that number. Well, it used to be. I don't know what it is right now, but the highest number of that population are Vietnam veterans. And they had to go fight an unpopular war and come back to an ungrateful country.
Right.
And I'm sure it's hard on some of them because they always fought for us, the younger generation coming home, to treat us right. And although they were probably happy for us, they still look and kind of, where was that for me when I came home?
Right.
And now today, there's tons of organizations to help post 9/11 veterans, but there's still not that much for our Vietnam veterans.
Well, let me ask you this. I lost a good friend. He was Sergeant First Class. He came home and they basically put him on the antidepressants and the antipsychotics. And James, it bothered him because he liked to drink beer, but he couldn't drink while he was on those drugs because it would make him kind of loopy, and he just didn't like how he felt when he was on the drugs. So the night before he died,
drinking makes you feel that way too.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
The night before he killed himself, we talked on the phone for 45 minutes, and there was absolutely zero indication that a few hours later he was going to end his life. But unbeknownst to us, he had gone off the medication for about 2 weeks, trying to not wean himself off. He went cold turkey thinking, I can do that. And he went from a high to a low, and he shot himself. And so I wonder if we're doing a disservice to our guys. They come in, they come back from deployment, and they start issuing these drugs to them. And now we're putting them in a precarious situation where they're dependent now on those drugs, and we can't get them off the drugs, or something happens. Do you think drugs play a part in this mental issue?
I do. I went through a period where trying this, trying that, and a whole concoction of drugs.
Yeah.
They can be a contributor of either people abusing them or just the reactions of your body with them. And it is that simple case. Oh, you missed a day of your medication. Now that throws you into a whirlwind.
Yeah.
You're used to being on that medication where you've built this tolerancy for it and you need more of it
Right.
and you're not getting enough of it. And so it really, I'm the last guy. I hate pills.
Yeah.
And that was my problem was I'd forget to take them because I just don't care about pills.
Right.
My wife gets on me. She's like, "Well, you need to go to the doctor for this little cut that you got." I'm like, "Nope, super glue."
Household 6, Ashley, doctor, mom, vice president. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's I tell folks, I mean, well, the drinking too doesn't help. I mean, folks that have already a lot of depression
Yeah.
and they drink or use drugs to try to mask it and deal with it.
Right.
It's it's one of those things where you think about when you were young and you're at a celebration and you're drinking, you're getting drunk and with your friends and you're like it supersizes your emotions. You're like, man, I love you. We're gonna be friends forever. And
yeah.
well, it does the exact same thing when you're in that low spot. You think it's going to help you, but it really supersizes your emotions. And when you're already depressed and it takes you down to the bottom of the pits, that's
Right.
usually when people make the unwise decision to take their life. And there's been times where everybody gets depression, and
Yeah.
anyone that says they don't is a liar. And so there's times where I've been really depressed, and I think about it and I say, okay, I'm going to wait till tomorrow and see how I feel in the morning. And usually the next morning, or if you talk to somebody, you realize whatever problems you might think you have,
Mm-hmm.
they're not that bad compared to others.
Exactly. Well, how does Warrior? What do you do with Warrior Call, and how do you treat and help guys?
And that's what we've been doing with Warrior Call is we've been getting together a group and we go out and visit these bases and we talk to the troops, and it's usually a 2-day event. We not only want to do that, but we usually tie it to a day of golf.
Right.
And so suicide's something nobody wants to talk about. And so
Right.
we try to mix it up with something good.
Right.
And it really we're trying to start the conversation, but it's more than that. We bring out, and most of these folks that come and talk at these panels are quadruple amputees, burn patients, you name it, and some with PTSD or TBIs or both, and talk about not only the physical injuries but the unseen injuries and how to deal with them. And they talk about resiliency, and not only through the adversity that they faced, but in everyday life. And what we ask folks to do is with Warrior Call is simply one call a week. Take a pledge and make that one call a week. Call somebody you know that served or is serving. Go walk down to the neighbor's house that you know, service members and civilians and veterans can do this, and anybody. And
Right.
say, hey, just wanted to come by and say hi, see how you're doing, and really have honest conversation.
Yeah.
And that to me is probably the biggest way we're going to find some of these isolated folks that are on the edge, because I've had a few friends that took their own lives during this COVID time that I would have never seen it coming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we had one guy, we went to Germany and visited a bunch of the bases out there in January.
Right.
And we were doing Zoom calls, and this guy was going with us on the panel, and we were Zoom calling, and we probably Zoom called with a bunch of us a week before he took his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that I never would have saw it coming.
Yeah. No indications.
No indications. And it's usually the ones that do it don't have the indications.
Yeah.
Some of them that you see the indications are sometimes a cry for help, but those could potentially be the suicide. So you got to stop them if you can.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is we don't have all the answers. I mean, I was not the best young sergeant. I went to the board and they said, what programs are out there? And I knew the Army programs, and that was about it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize knowing all the resources that are out there, or as many as I could, was important in taking care of my soldiers and their family.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that the military just can't do on its scale that these nonprofits, that's why they exist, is to cover down on those areas. And this suicide prevention, I think, is going to be greatly impacted by these nonprofits. And that's part of what I tell these folks is that I hated suicide prevention training. We all did.
Yeah.
I mean, death by PowerPoint. I'd be the person kind of in the back of the room going, oh, great. If I have to sit through this all hour or two, I'm going to cut my own wrists back here.
Yeah.
But it personalizes it when you have people on the stage and people that are impacted by it as well, victims panels, so to speak. General Graham, retired two-star, amazing man. He had 3 kids that were going to college when he was a colonel, and they were all staying in the same house near the university. And two boys and a girl, and one of the boys ended up taking his own life. 6 months later, the other son was killed in Iraq.
Right.
And the grief that they dealt with, and the daughter and the wife and himself truly impacted him. But they go and they talk about that all the time to a lot of folks. And they started a call center, which is amazing. It's called Vets for Warriors. And it's one of our, when we talk about work, that's the resource we tell people about, because a lot of folks will dismiss folks like, oh, you're not a veteran. You don't know where I've been. You don't understand me. Why do I want to call into this number when you're going to get some yahoo? And
right.
The ones that answer the phone calls are veterans. And what they try to do is when you call, they say, well, who did you serve with? Well, I served with 2nd Marines or 82nd Airborne. Hold on one second. Next person that answers, hey, I was in the 82nd. How you doing? So hopefully gives them that validation to, hey, I could talk to this guy.
I know what you're talking about. My sister died in college. I was 21. She was almost 15 days before her 20th birthday. And so my parents sent me to counseling. And I remember sitting across from this lady there, and she was like, I got a question. You have siblings? Yeah. Has any of your siblings ever died? No. Well, then you have no experience about what I'm going through right now. Well, I've read about it, and I'm like, well, I think our time here is done. And it wasn't until later that I found somebody that had experienced, I got through the whole grief, denial, all that stuff. But I would, people would ask, hey, you have a sister? And I'm like, no, I'm just the only child, just to avoid the conversation. But then one day I opened up and said, yeah, I had a sister. She died, got 19 years old, fell off a bridge, got run over by a train. And there, all of a sudden, my sister got hit by a drunk driver and killed. You had that bond, that instant bond. So I know what you're talking about. That's really important to have that, the military guy to put the validation in there.
And that's the hard part, is that we want to try to talk to these folks to not get away from the stigma as well.
Yeah.
They can't go get help. And I mean, when you're young, you're in the military and you got your body armor and you got your rifle and they pack you with all this gear that you feel like Superman.
Yeah.
I'm impenetrable.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we're all vulnerable.
Sure.
Emotionally and physically. And one of the things that I tell folks is that because your job is so important, or even as a veteran was so important, and you still hold those values,
mm-hmm.
we're our hardest critics on ourselves. And I said that when you go to work every day, when I joined the military, it was pre 9/11.
Yeah.
The motto at that time was be all you can be.
Right.
It wasn't be all you can be for Leroy. It was Leroy, be all you can be for the guy to your right and the guy to your left.
Yeah.
And I said, you need to be 100% when you come to work for them, the ones that you are around you. And that means spiritually, socially, emotionally, mentally, and physically.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if one of those things is out of whack, you're not at 100%. You're doing them a disservice. And I tell them, there was a point where I was seeing 3 psychologists at the same time. And it was because if one wasn't ready,
Right.
I go see the other one.
Right.
And that goes with the care, kind of with the VA and stuff like that, where we get mentally trained where, hey, go get 2 rolls of toilet paper, box of chem lights, and 3 rolls of tape from the supply. You run
Yeah.
down the supply and you ask them for, the supply sergeant goes, here's 1 roll of tape, here's a roll of toilet paper, and we don't have any chem lights, tough. And we say, okay, and we run back instead of sitting there and saying, hey, this appointment or these supplies are detrimental to my mission. You either go get them or tell me where I could go get them. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to find the help I need
Sure.
to get it done. And that really is the part where we need to be good advocates for ourselves. We're great advocates for others, sometimes not the best for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, we've got a sea of goodwill. I mean, all the different organizations that are out there. I like yours. You know, if folks out there listening to this want to give to a great organization, I highly recommend warriorcall.org. Donate there. How about the houses that you all were able to build for the village named after you?
The warriorcall.org is about Warrior Call, but the organization itself is Verity's Troops First Foundation.
Yeah.
And it is that's one of the things that we've done is multiple initiatives that we've worked on. We built a village of a cul-de-sac of homes up near Bethesda Naval Medical Center, or Walter Reed.
Mm-hmm.
And at first they asked me, they said, hey, we want to name it the Petry Village of Honor. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd go visit every now and then, and I saw them during the developmental stages. And when we did the ribbon cutting, I was in awe.
Yeah.
I never thought it was going to be that nice. And those homes are amazing. They're accessible. Mm-hmm. And you pull into the cul-de-sac, and the homes are named after Gold Star
right.
KIAs, and the cul-de-sac is Chief Chris Kyle Court, named after Chris Kyle. And
oh, wow.
And you pull into the Petry Village, and it's designed as a transitional home for those that are transitioning out of the military and have ongoing care. It keeps them close to the hospital. And I love the Fisher House, and I love the Fishers, what they do. But if you're going to be there long term, it's like you're kind of living in a hotel. This is actually giving them homes that they could have as a family and have that privacy, but yet have that support of the community that are going through like things. And they could stay there up to 2 years, and the only thing they're responsible for is utilities.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a great project that is thriving. We've had people move in, buy homes, move out. Some stay longer than others, and we're hoping to hopefully build another one, even bigger, down near San Antonio.
I was going to say, when you're down San Antonio, did Ashley stay at the was it the Ronald McDonald? What was the house?
They had the Fisher House right next to
Fisher House. Fisher House. I'm sorry.
But we stayed at the Palace Guest House, which was a hotel across the street.
Right.
We're on base, and even that was. I mean, nobody wants to live in a hotel.
It gets old after a while. Yeah,
it does. And but the other program that we started and we were doing is it was called Operation Proper Exit.
Uh-huh.
And what we did there was we'd take wounded veterans and active duty military that had been severely injured, and we took them back to theater. It started in Iraq, and then we were doing trips to Afghanistan, and they would go there, and they'd start in Kuwait, and we'd go to Afghanistan, and they would meet with the soldiers, and they would talk about what happened to them and their resiliency. And
sure,
command teams loved it. The troops loved it. It got to show them true resiliency firsthand. Yeah. But it also, for a lot of those folks, that was their first deployment. They got to ask the questions of, hey, what was it like when you got here? We haven't left the wire, and really get that veteran knowledge from someone that had been there. And what it was designed for was they also got to visit the hospitals we'd visit all the different hospitals, and they'd visit the hospitals where they were treated, because most of them left unconscious on a medevac aircraft and woke up in the United States, sometimes out of a coma sometime later after numerous surgeries. And this time they would be able to leave the country on their own terms.
Sure.
Wake, and they got to see where the country is now and how their contributions helped to get it there.
Right.
It was amazing. There was a couple of trips where the doctor was on another rotation and got to actually meet his patient that he treated in theater.
Oh, no way. Yeah. Wow.
So it was great.
That's funny. I asked Ronnie Jackson that question. He was a doctor over in Iraq with me at the level 3 hospital we had. I mean, my grandfather, when he was a surgeon, would have Marines, when he was at Parris Island, find out that he was the doctor there. They'd show up with a case of whiskey. And, hey, thanks for saving my life, Dr. McCampbell. And I asked Ronnie, have you ever gone, have you met some of the guys? And he's only run into a few of them. But I think that would be a pretty neat experience what that doctor went through, on your trip. How you guys don't fly commercial over there, so you come over on a C-17 and put them back in the kit?
We fly commercial to Kuwait, and then we jump on a C-17 or whatever's flying into country and get us there. And we put them on kit, and we go out, visit all these outstations.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that and we visit the embassy. That's part of the last part of the deal is we visit the embassy and talk to the state folks and kind of.
Iraq and Afghanistan?
Not Iraq anymore, but Afghanistan. I think the last trip we did over there was a couple of years ago now. Run into a little bit of bumps where, it's not safe over there and there's not anywhere for you guys to go, kind of thing. And
right.
It's kind of, I didn't take the fight to keep it going right off the bat. And I really miss it. And I really know the impact. And a lot of troops I talk to say, hey, are you guys still doing those trips? That was the best thing when we were overseas. And when we were told, hey, you can't really do them anymore. Yeah. I was like, well, you're still letting cheerleaders and football players and USO folks go in there. Right. And I was told a while back that they're chartered by Congress, so it's easier for them to get in. And I said, so we could send cheerleaders and stuff, but not our own veterans and our troops. And I think if I get back after it, if I need to, I'll ask the Medal of Honor Society to sponsor it because they're chartered by Congress. Right. That's what it takes. Yeah. Well, you got time for a couple questions? I got all the time. All right. Larry Shadow asked, hey, Leroy, how much of an impact was the Tribute of Valor event in Killeen, and what's next? I did not. Oh, yes, I do remember that. I know you go to a lot of events. That's the one, I think, with Gary Luttrell that I went to. Yeah. And it was it was awesome. The question I ask myself is when I go out to events or go out to do visitations, whatever it is, it's hard getting up for me to get on a plane and leave home. Mm-hmm. But the reward for me is that even if I meet tons of people and it only impacts one, right? That's the difference. And I kind of got in the mindset of, there's opportunity to go make money, but I'd rather make a difference sometimes than money. Well, you were talking about giving talks to the active duty on base. I think that these programs, different events that you attend, has a wider swath of former military that have experienced stuff that you might be able to impact as well, because you have a captive audience on base. But what about all those people that go out and, they're back in society? It's tough to get up with them, It is. This could be a way to connect with folks. And that's the thing that a lot of folks talk about, is the transition being the hardest part of one's service. Yeah. Back to society. And I talked to a group that was getting out of the military. And then a few days later, I talked to some new recruits that just signed up.
Right.
And I told them, no matter how long you stay, whether it's just one term or longer, I said, for a short period of your life, you'll realize that you're surrounded by great people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part of the transition, is that you're surrounded by all these great people that know what teamwork is and know what selfless service is and all these different values, and they have initiative and they're all about completing the mission. Where when you transition, a lot of people are out for themselves, and some people say you're working at a place and they say, hey, let's stay, it's 5:00. Well, let's stay another 20 minutes and finish this up. Now we're not getting paid overtime. kind of the mentality. And that's the part that people miss, is that mentality of that camaraderie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Steve Amerson, Steve.
Love Steve.
Can you describe the pain or feeling, the ongoing pain or feeling he has in his arm? And I think we kind of talked about that at the beginning of the show.
The phantom pain, it's kind of like needles, like somebody's jabbing you with a sharp object at the end of your stump.
Yeah.
And what helps with it as well, is vibrations. The rehab would say, take a beanbag and roll it. And I got that little massager I'll put on it.
Yeah, yeah. That helps out with the tick? Wow.
It does. I think it stimulates the nerves.
When you got shot in the legs, a buddy of mine got shot. I remember asking, well, what did it feel like when you got hit by the bullet? And he goes, man, I'm telling you, it was hot. I go, what? And he goes, no, I'm telling you, it was hot. When that bullet went in my arm, I just remember the heat. It was hot. Did you have that sensation of heat?
My adrenaline was running.
Down, all of a sudden you got blood and you're going, crap.
My adrenaline was running so high. It wasn't till we got another lull and fire that I was able to grab onto another guy, and we ran out of there. And when we got to our casualty collection point, I mean, there's blood all over the ground. Guys are getting treated.
Right.
Doc came running up to me and he's like, hey, Petry, we need to treat you. And I said, I'm good. I already got a tourniquet on this. Help those guys. And he says, well, we got to look at your legs. And I completely forgot about it.
Oh my God.
I looked down and my pants are soaked in blood all the way to my boots. And mentally, I wanted to stay in the fight. And I said, even if I use my last breath of life to pass a radio message, that's what I wanted to do. And mentally, though, I said, I'm running out of juice. The body's going to shut down. And so they cut off my pants. And we're not sure if it was one bullet or two, but it entered my upper thigh, penetrated, came out, went in the right thigh, and back out the other thigh. And for those of you that know what a 7.62 round looks like, from 15 feet away to go through both your upper thighs and miss all the arteries and all the bone, that was a miracle right there. But
yeah,
one of the things that happened, funny thing, or not funny, but one of
not funny, but yeah.
The strange things is that it was Memorial Day that year.
Uh-huh.
And when I got medevaced and woke up in Germany, and it was Memorial Day back here in the States. And my wife talks about that was probably the hardest day of her life.
Yeah.
When she got that knock on the door and they came to tell her that I was injured. My mother-in-law was in town. She would come in sometimes during my deployments. Mm-hmm. And she got the knock at the door. And if you're injured, they'll come in the fatigues. If you're KIA, they'll come in dress uniform. But early in the morning, Memorial Day, she gets a knock at the door and she goes to the peephole. Her and my mother-in-law, I think, were in their nightgowns having coffee. And she sees the tam beret. And she backs away from the door and she says, Mom, send the kids upstairs. You're going to have to get the door. And I knew that was the process. So when I woke up, I got to call her. And I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to let her know that I'm okay and I'm in good spirits? And so I called her and I said, honey, I'm in Germany. I got shot through both my thighs and I lost my right hand about the wrist, and the phone goes dead silent. Of course, hamster's running full speed upstairs.
Right.
What are you going to say? I said, but the good news is the junk's still there. And at that point, she knew I was going to be okay, and she started talking. And that's one of the things with all these folks that are severely injured. They sometimes have the greatest outlook in life.
Yeah.
Because like myself, they open their eyes and they breathe air in their lungs, and they're blessed with another day.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of those things of resiliency that you, like you said, you can't read about it. You got to experience it. You can't say, hey, if you fall off a horse, you're going to get back on. You got to actually knock them off the horse, but then also say, I'm going to be right here beside you to help you get back on.
Right.
And one of the things I talk about is in this life, we're never alone from the day we're born. Mm-hmm. Someone bathes us, feeds us, teaches us. Teachers educate us when we go to school. You're always surrounded by friends, family, peers, strangers that'll lend you a hand. And the one thing is that you're never alone till you die.
Sure.
The only thing stopping you and making you feel alone is you need to have the ability and the courage to reach out to someone.
Right.
And I struggled with that for a while as well. I had that pride, and I always had physical courage my whole life. What I lacked was emotional courage to tell people honestly how I was feeling and how I was affected by things.
One of the groups that I work with is the Marine Metroplex, and we have about maybe 100 Marines pre-COVID and this has been going on for years. I became the MC for it, and we have our one Army guy, Special Forces, Gene Pugh, who comes, and he's written a couple books, great guy. And he wrote a question. He asked, how long is it charging for your arm? How long does that last, the two sections?
It all depends on how long how much I use it, open and close, spinning and everything. This just got added about 4 years ago. It's a little button I could push, and I could see how much battery is left.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of like a Apple, where the charger is just a magnetic and you plug it in.
Oh, wow.
Next to my cell phone and everything. I have a car charger for it as well. But,
really?
Maybe an hour it'll be full charge, and I usually get about 10 hours out of the charge.
Oh, that's pretty amazing.
And so I had them. There was actually a set of batteries, and I was like, I need more. And so they daisy chained. They put it together and daisy chained an extra set of batteries.
Oh, that's well. Imagine all the events and everything you're going to. You've got to.
At the beginning, it was hard because they didn't have the battery meter on there. And I kept asking my prosthetist, "There's got to be a way I can know how much battery I have, because it dies at odd times and it's no fun."
Right.
And the worst one was probably the grocery store. The battery died on me while I was pushing the cart, and luckily,
I didn't think about that.
Luckily, I was near my home, and I basically had to take my arm off and twist it off and leave the hand attached to the cart holding on. And they all know me there at the store, so I took it up to the front. I said, "Can you watch this cart? I got to go charge my arm so I can get my hand back." And my prosthetist kept saying, "Well, they don't have a battery meter." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Duracell's had that like since the 90s.
Yeah.
You can push the side of it and see how much you got left."
Right.
But no, it's gotten better. And that's the best part, is that a lot of these prosthetists, they're not amputees. And so they need to be educated as a user as well as to improve their job and help others. Say, hey, right. And this was one of the advancements that I don't know if you can see that cut out.
Yeah.
So being in San Antonio, good old Texas, hot during the summer.
Which you need to move down here, by the way.
I do. I'm working on it. Yeah. And my prosthetist at the CFI there by Brook Army, I would get so much sweat built up, and he had a couple of holes, and he's like, "Well, we could drill another drain hole." And I said, "That's not enough." And so he was willing to try this out. It hadn't been done, but he cut out a large section, and the back broke a few times, and we had to play with it and learn how many layers we needed to put on the back to support.
Right.
But now you see a lot of people that are below the elbow amputees with the exact same cutout, because it gives you more flexion in your elbow.
Yeah.
It allows the air to get in there a little bit and drain. Yeah. There was times where I'd pick up my arm and have a flood of water just come down.
Oh, man. Oh, that's pretty awesome, man. What a great deal.
But it's been good too, because I've been able to meet kids that are born with developmental, uh, uh, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess,
Deformities or they, yeah.
and give them a little bit of inspiration that the technology is getting better and it's getting cheaper, and
Right.
a lot of folks are contributing to it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Leroy, I've kept you on for an hour and 10 minutes, and it has been feels like 5 minutes for me, brother. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and joining me.
This is the hardest part for me, is saying goodbye, but it's hopefully not for too long. I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah. Well, are you going to come down next month for the convention?
I plan to. I got asked to come out on Thursday for a presidential rally in North Carolina. And I mean, I would love to, but there's times where you got to even turn those down and say, I got responsibilities at home I have to do.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to be everywhere and everything, but you got responsibility still.
Sure.
But I do plan to be down there, and I look forward to seeing you. And
well, good.
Maybe if time, go for a ride in the tank.
Dude, if you bring your boy down here, I'll teach you how to drive, and I'll let you drive it. You want to drive it, you can drive it, or have your boy drive it. We'll have some fun.
I just love seeing that thing, and I love everything that you're doing. So I appreciate you, and I cherish our friendship.
Hey, I've got one request from Rick Irving, who is our Vietnam vet photographer. This guy is incredible. And Rick says, we need some video of veterans for Wayside Middle School Veterans Program. We've been doing that for years. Since we can't attend in person, can Leroy greet the students at Wayside Middle School via video, make a video? And we've got some questions for you. I choose to serve because the greatest lesson I learned was, and I want young people to know, and then answer those questions. Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? Maybe
I'll tell you what, shoot him my email, my phone number.
Yeah.
And tell him we'll get it done.
Awesome. I will. Hey, brother, listen, give Household 6 a big hug for me and tell her thanks again for letting you get up early and join us.
Will do. Thanks for having me, and thank you to all you folks that are on listening.
This is awesome, man. Thanks, Leroy. I'll see you hopefully very soon.
Sounds great. Take care. Safe travels.
Brother. I'll pop you out here, and you can go back to hanging out. And
I got a busy day.
You got a busy day. Thanks again, brother. I'll see you.
Take care.
Take care. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining us on Tacos Tall Tales. It was Wednesday morning, not Tuesday. I was actually out flying yesterday, so I can't thank Leroy enough for joining us. Some great things. If you guys can find it in your hearts, if you want an organization to support, please go look up warriorcall.org and check that out. And if it moves you, please contribute a little money to it and help out, because they are doing great things helping our vets all around this country. And so help out warriorcall.org. And until next Wednesday or Tuesday, I will see you guys then. Show lineup. Do me a favor. I'm going to move from my own personal Facebook page, where I'll have like 1,500 views, to Tall Tales of Taco on Facebook and also YouTube. I'm trying to move it over there. And in the future, let's see what I've got. I've got Admiral Pete Pettigrew, who was Top Gun. He was the technical advisor for the original Top Gun. He's an F-14 pilot and just an extraordinary guy. And depending on your love of Top Gun, you either love him or hate him. I absolutely love the guy, and Top Gun's one of the reasons that got me going through college to be able to write my papers and stuff. I put the movie on. And then keeping aviation-related theme, I then have Rich Graham, who was an SR-71 pilot. So here's a guy up in outer space in a spacesuit. I always want to know, you got an itch on your nose, what do you do? Or if you sneezed, does it blow all over the helmet? What do you do? But no, Rich is going to talk about being an SR-71 pilot. I got John Higgins, who was, he is currently the only civilian U-2 pilot out there. John Huggy is his call sign. He's going to come talk. Also have one of my former Lance Corporals, Mike Aldridge, who lives out in Idaho, and Mike and I got rides in the back of an F4 Phantom, which putting an enlisted guy in the back of an F4 going the speed of sound, we went Mach 1.3 at 53,000 feet. Get a little background on that and talk about that. And then also have Admiral Bill Shakti, who is a retired 2-star Navy JAG, and he was also Swift Boats in Vietnam. He was also the guy that took carry out for his first operation. It was a kind of interesting story on that. And then I have maybe 8 other people for round up the rest of the year that are going to be interesting Tall Tales with Taco. But thanks again for joining us. Go like the page on Facebook, Tall Tales with Taco. And eventually I'm going to stop posting them on my own personal feed and putting them over there so you can join us with conversations. I just want to have conversations with friends because there are some very interesting people doing great things around this country. And Leroy is one of them. So Leroy, if you're still listening out there, I love you, brother. Thanks for joining us. We'll get you back down in Texas. Actually, let's see. Can you see? Yeah. Helicopters for Heroes. Got to get you down to Texas so that we can go kill some. We killed like 600 hogs in a weekend from little birds and from Hueys. And they put 4 guys on each side with fully automatic M4s. So you'll have some fun, brother. I promise you, you will have fun if you come out for that. Anyway, you guys have a good one, and I will talk to you all next week. Until then, be safe, have fun, and as Leroy said, call your buddies up. This is a great gut check. Call your friends up. Find out how they're doing. I've got some friends in the neighborhood who are actually 75th Battalion guys. Sergeant Major Tommy Williams just retired, and Derek Tassin, he just moved down the street, and Fred Fincham, who was 75th Bat, and he lives down the road. So check on your buddies and make sure they're all doing okay. Until then, you guys have a great week. Hoorah. Semper Fi.